So you are thinking about moving to Texas, or maybe you already know that you are coming to Texas and you just want to know a couple of more things before you get here. Well, in this video, I'm going to go over 5 things that you need to know before moving to the great state of Texas. All right, so let's get to it. 5 things you need to know before moving to what I consider the great state of Texas. The first thing we're going to do is get something out of the way here. Texas is hot, y'all. And by the way, I am located here in North Texas, or the Dallas-Fort Worth area, otherwise known as DFW. I am in a place that's not quite as humid as other places. But last year was a horrible year for heat. It was really horrible. I have lived here my entire life, and I've never experienced that before. In fact, the last few summers we've had, not last year, the last few have not been that bad. We've stayed in the 90s until we reach August, and then it's not so fun. And then September hits, humidity goes down. It's still a little hot, but it gets there. So I'm just going to throw that out there, y'all. Texas is hot, but it's also not 6 months of winter. And it is definitely not negative 30 degrees like I hear that some of y'all up north experience. I can't live that way, but it is hot. We do have 4 seasons here. I think some people tend to say we don't have that, but we actually do. Especially once late September hits, you really start feeling the relief. And then October is great. You get to put on your boots and your jeans. November is great. Also, it is kind of you never really know what you're going to get until you kind of get into September. And then it's usually it starts getting a little bit colder. We've had snow on Christmas before. That's very rare, but that has happened. January and February are going to be fairly cold to me. 32 degrees is cold. 40 degrees is cold. But you know what? We could have a 50 or 60 degree day in January and maybe even 70, but for the most part, it is cold in January and February. And by the time February hits, everybody here has cabin fever because we have spent the last 2 months being cold. And so we can't wait for March. Even though March can be cold, we know that spring is right around the corner. Yes, we do have wonderful springtime. April and May are great. I know they're not as long as maybe other people's springs, but we do have that. And then you're back into summer where it's hot. But yes, we do go through 4 seasons, especially here in North Texas. Now, if you're talking about Houston, it is humid down there. So any kind of heat is just going to feel hot. So if weather is a big deal to you and you can choose where in Texas you live, I'm always going to advocate for North Texas because look, we've got Dallas and Fort Worth. And it's just, I feel like the great place about North Texas is if you want to visit a place like Georgia or Colorado, for me, it's a day's drive. I can drive 12 to 13 or 14 hours in a day if I want to. In fact, we've done it dozens and dozens of times. Honestly, we have. But if you're down there in Houston, you're tacking on another 5 hours just to get out of the state of Texas. So North Texas is great. Yes, it's hot. Okay, let's talk about the cost of living in Texas. Compared to other states, Texas is known to be more affordable. Texas economy is known to be pretty well as compared to other states. And I'm going to compare it to places like California, Washington, anywhere along the East Coast. Those places are just expensive to live in. There are places in Texas like Austin is high. The city of Houston is going to be high. The city of Dallas is going to be high as well. There are a few suburbs of Dallas that are going to be really high as well. Denton is not one of them. We are a more affordable place to live. The houses where I live can range anywhere from $140 a square foot, maybe less, to $250 a square foot, maybe a little bit more, depending on does it have a pool, amenities, and things like that. But that's about average. Go to South Lake, Texas, which is not far from me at all. Goodness, you can see up to $700 a square foot. But we're talking about, 10,000 square foot homes and things like that. You go to California and let's not even talk about square footage there. I think everyone knows how expensive it is to live there. You have the beautiful weather year round, but you pay a big price for that. So overall, the cost of living in Texas is great compared to a lot of other places like Washington, California, New York, and any other place along the East Coast. Something you need to know about Texas, if you're considering a move here, is we do have property tax. We do not have state income tax, but we do have property tax. And that's really something you need to consider when you're talking about the budget for your home, because that is going to change what you qualify for. Here in the city that I live in Denton, Texas, our property tax is about 2.12%. You could be paying anywhere from $5,000 a year up to, my goodness, $20,000 a year, depending on the price of your home and what city you're living in. But you do need to make sure you take that into consideration when you're considering your overall budget for your home. Like I said, we don't have state income tax, but we do have property tax. And the whole state has property tax. We also, obviously, we have sales tax. Where I live, it's 8.25%. So I've heard of other states having all these additional taxes. So sometimes things are just offset. A lot of people get really shocked about our property tax, but at the same time, you have to look at our school systems. You have to look at the quality of our hospitals. They're really good. A lot of times if you want those good things, that comes at a price as well. But definitely talk to your realtor. You're going to want to talk to your lender about that because it could come as a big surprise to you about property tax. And I will say property tax is part of your monthly mortgage. It's not something that you had to set aside and then the bill comes in and you have to pay for it. It is part of your monthly mortgage. So that's paid every month alongside your mortgage and your homeowner's insurance. Okay, so let's talk about jobs. I did talk about the economy in Texas, and it is thriving. It is a great economy. Texas does offer a lot of jobs, whether you're in North Texas like I am, or you're in, Houston, Austin, San Antonio, or even other places. We've got a lot of oil fields, that people are working. There are a lot of job opportunities here in Texas. We've got Toyota, Boeing is here, Raytheon, Dell Computers, Apple. We have some amazing hospitals. We've got Lockheed Martin here in the Denton area. We have Peterbilt Motors. That's such a great company to work for. I'm leaving out so many, but Texas really does have a lot of good job opportunities. One other thing that's really unique about Texas, I think, is according to WalletHub, Texas was named as the #1 place to start a small business. And that was based on overall business environment, access to resources, and business cost. I know here where I live, we have a very thriving Denton chamber. Our chamber is awesome. It's amazing. And it's so highly supportive of small businesses. And, being a realtor, this is a small business. I own a small business. I don't know if people see it that way, but it's what we do. And we are highly involved in our chamber, and it has really enhanced our business. So I know firsthand that at least in North Texas where I live, it is a great place for small businesses. And in fact, the city of Denton has so many small businesses, and we always, remind our community to shop local. So if you are a small business owner, this is a great thing to consider and to talk to other small businesses or talk to your realtor about that as well. But like I said, according to WalletHub, Texas was named as the best place to start a small business. And the last thing you need to know before moving to Texas is just know where you want to live, how you want to live. Texas is a very, very big state, as you know. But we have some major cities like Dallas, Fort Worth, Houston, San Antonio, Austin. And then I know there's so many I'm missing out. We also have East Texas, where you've got Tyler, Texas. But there are so many suburbs in those areas. Do you want to live in a more rural area where there's farmland, where it takes half an hour to get to a grocery store, but it's a lot more affordable? Or do you want to live in downtown Houston or downtown Dallas, where, it costs a lot more to live there, but everything is so convenient? Or do you want to live in a place where I live, like Denton, that's about 35 or 45 minutes north of Dallas and Fort Worth? A lot more affordable, but yet you've got some great proximity to everything that, the big places like Dallas, Fort Worth have to offer. Also, you're going to want to keep your budget in mind when you're considering where you want to move in Texas. Like I said, there are a lot of affordable places to live, and there are even more affordable places to live, but they might not be places where you want to live because it's maybe too far out. It's too rural. Or maybe for you, even living in a city like Denton, it's too big for you. Well, there's options, and there are options that are less than an hour away from where I live that still puts you within a 2-hour drive to the Dallas-Fort Worth airport, which I know is a long drive, but if you don't go that often, not that big a deal. So know where you want to live, know how you want to live, and know that you have options, but you've got to take your budget into consideration because Texas does have a lot of variety when it comes to housing prices. I hope this video was super helpful for you. Like I said, we do have people reaching out to us all the time. And if that's you, make sure that you reach out, send us a call, shoot us a text, send us an email. We would love to chat with you about what it's like to live in Texas. Also, I've got some other videos on home prices. I tour a couple neighborhoods, and I also tour downtown Denton. So I'd love for you to check that out. But until then, I will see you on the next one.